Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, 4:05. We get a roll call, Tona?
Slider,
Here.
Duncan,
Here. Here.
John, are you here?
I'm here. I didn't hear you call my name.
Chairman Gray.
Here. Okay. Got a quorum, and has everybody had a chance to review the agenda as presented? Yes, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll motion.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll suspend the board meeting and open the 2020-21 budget hearing.
Okay, very good. I'd like to direct your attention to the budget. That should be the next. Okay. So I'm just going to go through and point out some of the things that changed from the preliminary budget. And so the total assets, so the cash that we had, it was up a little bit for estimate 3,000 or so. On the revenue came in total revenue of 1.399 was up a little bit. The preliminary budget at about 1.17. Going down to the expenditures, there were those three items that we added to the scoreboard. So, if you look up here, the difference between that 9.7 and the 25%, that went down into the discretionary line item to keep our total expenditures about 2.7, and it was up from 2.5. The next section are those deferred maintenance items, and like the preliminary budget, we kept in those projects whose useful lives are about to expire in the next fiscal year, just so they're on a radar. And that brings us to the total expenditures and cash reserves of 6.984 and change. And as far as the future needs for the future expenditures, it's 4.161, and that was up just a little bit because of the change in cash up above. And then also we've got a couple of deferred maintenance projects that are on our radar for fiscal year 21 through 22. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions? Discussion? Okay. Do we have any public comment for the hearing on the budget?
We do not.
Okay, we'll close the budget hearing and reconvene as a board meeting. 4:07. Communications and correspondence and public comment?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay, going on to board action. Everybody have a chance to review the minutes of the June 22nd special meeting or regular meeting? Are there any additions or deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes on June 22nd as presented.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Move on to board action number 2. Recommend the approval of the minutes of the July 7th special meeting. Is there any discussion or addition or deletion of any problems with the motion or the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll motion.
Another second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, recommend approval of the recreation board warrants and reimbursement to general fund.
Okay, yep. So that's this document here. That one where it says record reimbursements, check number 1065. So this is the approval for the reimbursement back to the general fund. And then the next couple pages are the jobs that go into that reimbursement, and they were the Lindsay Hardwood jobs that they did at the high school, and it was for the main gym and also the auxiliary gym. Is that correct, Mark?
Are both of them done? I know the main floor is done. The bottom.
They're both. Everything at the high school is complete and the junior high is 75%.
Okay. So again, the approvals for the reimbursement to the general fund, the check 1065, and then the 31,746 payment to the general fund for those two jobs.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the board warrants and reimbursement to general fund as presented.
No motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Move on to recommend approval of treasurer's report. Scott?
Okay, the beginning balance in Roxbury's National was 121,749.29. We had interest earned through the quarter of $242.35. We had county treasurer receipts of $591,087 and 90.92. And we had reimbursements back to the general fund, a total of $349,970.45, for an ending balance of $363,109.11. For the WGIF beginning balance of $9,371,156.27. We had interest earned for the quarter of $12,542.29, for an ending balance of $9,383,698.56. Grand total of the cash we have on hand is $9,746,807.67.
Okay, any discussion or questions on the treasurer's report as presented? Not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
No motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to board discussion. Stagecoach Elementary Gymnasium floor. Is that you or is that Dan?
I can, Mark has already gone out and gotten prices, and from the prices so far, we're at the high end of $67,000. So that puts us to the point where we might have to go out to bid. But I do know, and Mark, you can fill them in on, you've had other discussions. Some companies, there's an issue as to whether we can leave the existing floor down and just go over it, which would take a huge amount off of the, our original estimates. If that's the case, but some of the guys that have been coming back to Mark have been saying, no, you can't do that. And I do know that he was waiting for one other person to reply. So Mark, go ahead and fill him in on that, please.
Yeah. So I've contacted two companies locally. Both of them looked at the job. Both of them have tried to find out if they could just go over the existing floor. The manufacturers from both their suppliers say no, we have to remove the floor that's there. So I do believe the third company that I talked to out of Utah is going to come back with the same thing. Surfaces here in Rock Springs has declined giving me a bid because they don't have the equipment to remove the floor. I do have a bid from Carpet One. Waiting for the bid from Utah, and I talked to him today, and he said I should have it by the end of today. So should have at least two bids. Well, the first one, like Dan said, is the high end of 67,000. It's up there.
So is that
Okay,
just,
so
is that just to remove the section that's cracking, or is it the complete
No,
floor?
this will be to remove the whole Mondo floor, which is that rubber poured floor, completely out. Repair the cracks, the separating cracks that are in the floor, and install a new rolled material. It's a 4 foot by 90 foot long roll of a rubber cushion gym floor that they put in. It's a floating floor, does not get sealed to the floor. Just kind of sits in place. The edges are welded, so there's, they're waterproof. So,
And I just need to make a point of clarification. What we're getting from these guys are estimates, because if the other guy comes in and he's, somewhere around what, our first, 67 plus is, we're going to have to go out to bids officially. So that'll require the state's normal procurement, and we'll open it up. We'll advertise it in a Casper paper and on the internet. So we'll get you should get a broader a group of bids coming in. And generally speaking, when Mark does this, he usually asks the guys for estimates, and if it is in the range where we are required by state statute to go out to bid, then we do ask for bids. So that's a distinct clarification, because a lot of guys won't actually give you a hard bid. They will give you an estimate, but they don't want to, if it is in the realm that we have to advertise, they don't want to tip their hand and say, to their competitors, so that now they know what all their numbers are. So these are just estimates. And if the next one comes in and it's above the $50,000 mark, which I would imagine it might be, coming from Salt Lake and doing the same job, we'll have to take those estimates, hand them back, and go out for an official bid following the state procurement process.
Hey, Dan, this is Scott. Is the
Yeah.
gym floor, are we able to use it, or is it unsafe for use?
No, actually, Mark has got some really good pictures. When we were there in the late spring or late winter, early spring, the gap was wide enough that I could almost fit my cart across it. Now there is a sealant in there, so the divot is maybe about, a quarter of an inch. But now, for some reason, movement in the building, water tables, whatever, they're actually the crack has gone back. And like I said, Mark has the photos. They're in some cases way less than half an inch. So if there's no danger, it's not like one floor has lifted, up higher than the other. That would be a whole different issue that we'd have to deal with. This is just movement of those buildings based on the, more than likely the ground that's underneath it. I don't believe that it's a danger to the kids if they're playing, in there. Like I said, it leaves maybe about at its very worst, we've seen it about an inch and a half. But there is they did put, because it was a control joint at one time, and there is a sealant in there that kind of covers it. And so it's not like somebody would, lose a foot in there or twist an ankle or something.
Yeah.
What's the process of repairing the crack?
Well, that, Leo, honestly, with knowing now that it moves as much as it does, I would almost think that you'd have to wait until it opens up at, its maximum to go in there and grout out the stuff that's already in there, and then put in I'm sure you're familiar with like a backer rod of some sort. Usually use like a sponge type backer rod, and then they'll put a expandable sealant on top of it. I know Concrete Specialties, I've dealt with those guys for years, and that's how we've always handled parking lots and sidewalks that have opened and closed with the weather. But at this point where it's it's kind of back in place, I'd almost if we're going to just repair it to get it by, I'd almost just as soon wait until it gets worse and then go in there on a weekend or something and grout out what's in, put in a backer rod, and then refill it
So if we
and
go
just
with-
leave it.
So if you go
I'm
with
sorry?
the road material, then you can do that.
either way, we actually got a quote to repair the existing floor. They were gonna come in and cut out 5 inches on each side of the crack of the rubber poured floor completely out. They were gonna grind the crack, and like Dan said, put a backer rod in there and a seal that's flexible rubber type seal, so that as the building moves, it moves with it. And then they were gonna fill that repair, that 10-inch repair, and then put a whole nother layer over the whole floor, so you wouldn't see the repair. That came in at close to $49,000.
Just for the
But
repair.
then,
That wasn't
we have the issues that could pull apart again. If we put in this other style floor, it's floating on top. If anything moves underneath, they were gonna do the same thing. They're gonna over grind the crack wider, put in the backer rod and the sealant on that crack and any of the others that they find. And then put this rolled material on top of it with a metal barrier where those expansion joints are.
So are we taking, with the new high school or the satellite or the dirt? I mean, are we taking the same precautions to alleviate this future over there?
That is an excellent question, and yes, we are. We have been very, very diligent to make sure that the specs, first of all the specs said the same thing, and I would imagine in all our schools, you know, in fact, you know, we're having issues at Satellite or not Satellite, Stagecoach, and I'm pulling the specs now. We did a geo study, but yes, we are we are not backfilling with any native soil unless that it was a utility area that is not going to have any type of construction over it. So if you drive out there to the site now, you'll see where it almost like they're working at another site on the southeast side of the property, and they're putting utilities in there. And if you look at the overview of what the total build out of that building would be, including parking lots, there is no parking lot going out over there or anything. So that's just natural prairie. So that is where they can use their native soil. But anything in the building or underneath concrete has been not just removed from the ground, but also removed from the site. And W base has been brought in, and everything has been, you know, we did the proper lifts. Our owner's rep has been really diligent. JFC has been really diligent as our testing agent. I get out there when I can to make sure, you know, we just keep tabs on. And so, yeah, I would say if there is ever an area that we have that movement and it was you know, we did a geo test and found native soil there, it was because somebody slipped one in when we weren't watching. But we have taken extra precautions, and the contractors there know that I have been absolutely, you know, on top of this, and I have told them more than once that I can take them to 3 of our schools where we have settling, and so this is not going to happen again. And so, yeah, to answer your question, yes, we have taken great pains to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Hey, Dan, are these repairs covered under warranty?
They, you know, if it was a repair, whereas the material itself was shifting and cracking, you know, because of shrinkage, because of humidity, lack of humidity, then yes, they would be. But where the building itself is moving, you know, it should be, you know, could we go back to the contractor and, you know, the general contractor and say, you know, this building is moving? And yeah, as much as I would like to, you know, it's very difficult to do that with our contractors. It's time consuming. So yeah, it may be. And when I've done a geo study of our parking lot, and I also now I'm, you know, trying to narrow down the specifications, because if there was a possibility that they did not follow the specifications, but I just don't think that a contractor is going to come in without a fight. So in the meantime, we still have to, you know, do something with the gym floor. So yeah, it should be under warranty. Definitely should be under warranty of some sort, but not from the flooring company. It would be more going back on the GC and saying, hey, it's not the product that failed. It's the actual construction of the floor is moving for whatever reason. And you know, they may have followed the specs to a T, and it's just moving in a manner that we can't do anything about.
Okay. And do you know what the enhancement percent is over at that building?
Gosh, Mark, I think it's, I know that we talked about it. I'm not in my office and I don't have my notebook with me, but I'm trying to think what those bleacher pullouts would be, but that is what the enhancement is. If you guys want to continue on, I can maybe pull up our rec or my school facility site and get back with you.
Okay. Yeah, but where I'm going is trying to determine what the share is for the rec board.
Right, and I understand. I kind of figured that that's what you're looking at. The other thing, I look at that, and I also look at the usage. And while it's, you know, it's an elementary school, but yet that is a school that is used by junior jazz. And, you know, this year, you know, probably not as much, but, you know, as in past, you know, 3 or 4 years that they've been there. And Mark, is that not, am I not correct in saying that that is one of the Junior Jazz's main gyms that they
Yeah, they play
use?
some of their games there, their actual.
And I believe I can pull up facility uses that show that there's an awful lot of practice that goes on in that gym. So regardless of the square footage, there is a certain amount. The square footage does legally determine, the responsibility for the rec board versus the district. But then there is also the question as to who uses it, a lot. We've got the kids during the day that have gym, and then we have it open till 9 o'clock at night for, after school, outside entities, Junior Jazz. We do have an MOU with the city, so they do use it for Junior Jazz. I know in the past, I was teasing, Leo's teased me about 30/70, but I think if we look at the usage and look at the square footage, I don't think that I'm far off by saying that the district probably uses it and is responsible for about 70% of that square footage.
So Dan, do you feel a percentage from the rec mill and yourself what's your thoughts on that? Are you saying
Well, I would,
70-30?
yeah, I do think that if we took a high end of $70,000 and said that, there's a 30% responsibility for the rec board, I think that is probably the appropriate amount. If we said not to exceed, that, whatever that percentage is, $21,000, that would be, well, from my end, more than fair.
So Scott, this will come out of the discretionary fund, correct? But we still have to make a motion once we get the bids back to spend it then, correct?
Yes, yeah, we can allocate the budget, but in terms of the actual job, I believe that would be the best thing to do. Yeah.
So do we need, since it's coming out of discretionary, we don't have to have a budget?
What I would look for from the rec board would be to make a motion to move discretionary money up to that line item, and then we'll adjust the budget accordingly. We just have to make sure that when we approve the budget, that we approve it as amended, so that line item gets in there.
Okay, now we can't do that under board discretion, correct? We have to do that under board action.
It has to be board action.
So if you're talking 30% and you're saying somewhere 70,000,
We're at 60, close to 68,000 for the first.
Yeah. If you go 30.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to add contingency onto that, guys. So if you said, 8% contingency on whatever 60,000 is, it's gonna put you a little bit over 70,000.
So 8% on 70,000 is 75,600. And 30% of that is 22,680.
Yes, so I would say not to exceed that.
okay. Do we need to add that as at board action to amend the budget? As presented?
Yes.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to amend the budget in the discretionary line item to add $22,680 rec board money for the repair of Stagecoach Elementary gymnasium floor.
I'll motion to approve that, yes.
I'll second it, but I have a question. Maybe Dan, this is the only quote we have right now. I mean, what if one of them comes in higher and then we go out to bid, because it's gonna be that way, and the bids come back higher than even that? I'm wondering if, Scott, should we balloon this a little bit?
Already ballooned it a little.
We did.
A little.
Yeah, we ballooned it 8%.
You wanna go?
I see what you're saying, Mark.
We want to.
Can you do just a
25?
percentage
That's what I
of
was thinking.
what
If we
it
rounded
comes
it
in?
up to
Can we
25,000,
approve a
just to-
percentage?
Well,
Or does it have to be a dollar amount?
Would have to be done.
Can we just round it up to 25 grand?
We could.
All right.
Yeah, I think that would be
You wanna amend your motion?
Yeah.
25,000? Second?
second.
All Any discussion? John?
No.
All right. All those in favor, I got a first and a second for board action
Aye.
to amend the budget. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, move on to action item number 13, which is approval of the 2021 budget as presented. I'll entertain a motion to accept it.
A motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? John? All right, I got a first and a second to recommend approval of the 2020 and 21 budget as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, our next board meeting is scheduled for October 6th, 2020 at 5 p.m. And our future meetings of January 5th and May 5th, 2021. Is there anything else anybody needs to bring up for discussion? You good?
I'm good.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I.
Thanks.
Aye.
See you in October.
Thanks, guys.